I've been waiting for you to call me. There's so much I have to tell you. And you know how I get when I don't hear from you. So hurry up and pick up the phone and call me. I can't wait.
Just what you are.
Welcome to the Cinematic Void Podcast. Cinematic Void is a cult film series that hosts screenings in the Los Angeles area as well as virtually. I'm your host, Jim Branscombe, and joining me as always is...
Yo, it's Nick Vance, Paranoid Futures on all social media. And you can find Cinematic Void on the World Wide Web at cinematicvoid.com, as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all major podcast platforms. If you want to support The Void, you can consider joining our Patreon. Not only do you get cool perks, but guess what else, Jim?
What's that?
You make this podcast possible.
That's goddamn right.
Give us the 5 stars. Give us a nice review on Apple or wherever the hell you listen to shit. It helps. So do that shit. Anyway,
so I guess we're getting more frequent with doing these podcasts again, kind of.
we do so many podcasts that we don't even have time to watch movies. So we're just gonna talk about the movies rather than talk about a single movie.
Yeah, it's just easier. It's like who has time to watch a fucking movie? I mean, obviously I do, but like, it's easier to do a letterbox review than like actually talk about a fucking movie on this podcast. Like, you know how much fucking work it does or it takes to do these?
Yeah,
which is why we don't fucking do it.
Yes, I do.
All right, so wait a minute. Aren't you supposed to ask what we're talking about today?
I'm asking. I'm telling. Yeah, we're talking shit.
Yeah, that's all we're doing is we're really just going to talk shit. But besides talking shit about some, I guess, things that are in the ether, the social media ether, which might not reflect the real world, like I don't think Twitter is the real world. Not close, but besides some things we're going to talk about that are film related without actually talking about any films, I guess, well, that's not true because we are going to talk about some films later in the podcast. I'm going to be talking about the March lineup at the Los Feliz 3. Going to be doing March Movie Madness. And hey, guess what? Cinematic Void is turning 7. Actually, just turned 7 like a couple days ago. On February 12th, 2016 was the very first Cinematic Void show. Just turned 7.
49 in dog years.
Yeah, I guess so. Again, midlife crisis. Everything comes back to the midlife crisis and being a grumpy old bastard. But because Cinematic Void is turning 7, doing a special 7-film marathon at the Aero Theater coming up in March. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But, all right, we promised to talk some shit. Let's talk some fucking shit. A couple things I've noticed this is kind of a continuation of what we talked about the last time on the podcast, which was, what the hell did we talk about? It was like, it was about people talking during movies, or like audience engagement and how people like engage with art. And one of the keys to engaging with art is curation. And there's plenty of different places that curate and ways of curation. And the reason I was inspired to kind of retread on this topic, or like expand on at least this part of it, because I think Joe Bob Briggs just had his the Valentine's Day special on Shudder, and they showed Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, and Necromantic.
Oh.
And it's an interesting Valentine's Day themed double feature, I think. But I saw like this weird negative reaction to Necromantic. And it's like, again, I didn't watch it, so I'm not talking shit on anyone for this, but it's just like, people just didn't want to engage with it because it wasn't something they were used to or whatever. And it's just like, it kind of made me, ask some internal questions as a film programmer, or like someone who watches movies, or like that kind of stuff. It's like, and this has to deal with like streaming in general. And this is also going to come back to the series that, as we're recording this, we're still in the middle of, which is Killer Obsession, which we talked about the lineup on the last episode. But like, it's just like, when you curate something, what is the intent behind the curation?
Mm-hmm.
And this has to do with like movies, books, music, any kind of art. Like, curation is you're putting it together for a reason. And I guess my question is like, why do people put things together? And what do you want to get out of the audience?
Why does anyone do anything?
Yeah, that's basically the big broad strokes here. So, and I guess it was because of the reaction to Necromantic, which I think is like...
It's surprising to me, something like that, and maybe I'm just old, but I don't know. I just think that something like Necromantic has such a reputation, and maybe it doesn't with a newer audience. But just you know, I just think it's notorious, and I would think that a lot of people still haven't seen it, and they would jump at the chance to see it. And even now, it's admittedly it's a strange one that I saw it at an early age, really only because of the subject matter, and I didn't know what the fuck I was getting into. It's a film unlike any other film I had ever seen at the time, for sure. You know, I mean, it's way artier than just like just being a necromantic. You know, just being a film about necrophilia. It's way more arty than that, you know? I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that that's something that people don't really...
Like...
Doesn't hit with some people, you know?
Well, I think it's like, it's also... Let's just look at Joe Bob Briggs and, like, what he does. And, again, this is not a knock against him because, like, they've done it before on this program because we had Darcy on, like, I guess, last year? Something like that. And, you know, she's... one of two people that picked the movies, and they talked about the balance between doing like crowd pleasing like 80s horror hits and like more artsy horror stuff, because they've shown Audition, which didn't go over well. They've shown Cannibal Holocaust, which like definitely probably had mixed reviews.
Yeah.
And it's just, I guess the way if you're curating as a Joe Bob Briggs, like, I feel like the expectation for most people is like, even though they've already done this multiple times where they've just thrown wild card, like, I don't even say hard art horror or anything like that, but like something that's a little more advanced than maybe the demographic is looking for, it gets like these weird negative reactions. And like, you know, I like Necromantic. I actually like Necromantic 2 a lot more.
Same. And Necromantic is just the thing you got to get past to get to part 2 for me.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
You need to see, I mean, even though they have a whole recap of Necromantic 1 at the beginning of Necromantic 2.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Star Wars thing. It's like, if you missed the first one, here's what you missed, which is like, well, I don't want to spoil. Well, can we spoil Necromantic?
Yeah, I think it's been out for a little while at this point.
It's been, I mean, it came out late 80s. It's like a dude being really just sad fuckboy and like stabbing himself in the gut while jerking off and blood shooting out of his dick.
It's truly a great scene.
It's a fucking insane scene, especially the cross-cutting when they're like the skin rabbit stuff, where like the skin's going back on the rabbits and that kind of thing. Like, it's royally fucked.
Yeah.
And I know when we saw it back in like the mid 90s, the late 90s, it was just like, holy shit, because like the thing was, it wasn't easy to see.
Yeah.
And now, in the dawn of the streaming age, everything's easy to see. Because it's like, especially the horror stuff, because you have great platforms like Shudder or Tubi or fucking Arrow Video Player, which I gotta give a plug because, hey, I got a curated list on there. So shout out to Arrow Video Player, who let me do a January Giallo list. Well, I picked a January Giallo themed list because I thought it was coming out in January. Like, oh, it's coming out in February. So I might have done something different, but.
Gotcha.
But anyway, it's a good list. Lots of hits in there. But there's lots of really great genre curated stuff. And I feel like everyone, like most people that have those, are only looking for like one certain thing, which is like the nostalgia of the 80s era. And I feel like people are kind of less adventurous. Or like, again, I guess it comes down to curation. And again, this is not a knock on anyone, but like, I feel like how Necromantic was set up, it was just like, I think they warned people of the violence with the rabbit stuff, like the rabbit skinning and things. And that probably a fair trigger warning in this day and age. I think they did the same for Cannibal Holocaust and whatever. And they donated some turtle, like, you know, habitat protection kind of things and stuff like that. But like, it seems like the really taboo movies that were really fucking hard to see, and we had to go out our way, so we were like already fucking in.
Yeah. Now
that they're being presented in like, you know, the easiest access way possible, people are just like, whatever.
Makes sense. It does.
No, I think a lot of the complaints that came from Necromantic was like people were fucking bored which I think, like, you kind of got to set it up. It's a slow burn. Like, you know, when I do movies like that, I, you know, make sure to explain, like, hey, this is what you're getting into, but, like, stick around for that. Stick with it, because then that's where the reward is.
Totally.
And it's just like, you know, this is going to be my complaint against streaming in general, but it's just like the way people engage in, like, groups, you know, streaming. Because, like, when you're in a movie theater and you're watching a movie, you're not really talking to your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really talking shit about the movie like you would at your house or whatever. Right. So when you have online discourse, like, you know, there's times where, like, that shit has made movies big. Fucking Sharknado became a huge hit because, like, all these people fucking watched it live on the Sci-Fi Channel back then. So it just, like, elevates stuff. But, like, the communal aspect of people watching and, like, throwing their 2 cents and jokes and stuff like that, I don't know. I think it works for some things, but then it's, like, it's kind of harmful for other things. And it's, like, kind of goes back to people laughing during Vertigo. Like, you're presenting something that was, like, kind of like this monumental, like, very important, fucked up movie. And then you kind of throw it out there, and people are like, whatever. This sucks.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's crazy to think about a movie where a guy's shooting blood out of his fucking dick while stabbing himself while jerking off.
Yeah. How could you not love that?
People didn't. And so I guess when it comes back to curation and just, like, how do you present something like that? Like, you know, I don't have the right or wrong answer, but it's
well, I mean, I didn't see this particular episode of Joe Bob, but I would assume that they give plenty of context.
I think I don't think he does context. I think
or at least kind of, didn't they warn people, like, hey, this is not fucking Friday the 13th, dude.
Yeah, but, like, I don't think anyone listens is the other thing. That's the other thing. It's like people just like, oh, this is going to be a fun.
Isn't that why people watch Joe Bob, so they can hear him kind of give perspective, like during the breaks and the intro, that sort of thing? Like,
yeah, but I feel like they want a certain thing from it. I think they just want the personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wonder, because of the personality, and, like, the man has done wonders for cult movies and cult cinema. I think some people just have this whole perspective that, like, the way it's curated, it's like they're expecting one thing, and when they get something else, they get mad about it, or they don't like it, or they don't want to engage with it because it's not the thing.
Right. Like, also, for instance, like on the Criterion Channel, there's plenty of films where it's either the director gives you can select it so that it's like the director will be given the intro before the film, or not always the director. It can many people, you know.
It could be a film critic, an actor,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I almost always watch them. Like, yeah, like I don't really want a spoiler for sure, but, like, it's nice to hear just a little something. It's you doing the intro to a film at the show, you know.
Yeah.
It's fucking important, man. Just sets the tone.
It sets the tone. And I guess that's what I'm getting with curation. It's like, it's one thing to pick a movie, and, like, you're picking a movie because you're championing a movie. You're picking a movie because, like, hey, I don't necessarily like this movie, but I think people should see it. Like, all the different reasons. But I just feel like there's...
Do you ever show stuff that you just straight up don't like?
Oh, I have.
Hell yeah.
And there's lots of reasons for that. It's like...
But it's something that you don't like, but you still think it's important for other people to say.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I think Cannibal Holocaust, and I've said this before, I think Cannibal Holocaust is one of the most important, like, cult horror, like, exploitation movies ever made. I'm never going to watch it again because, like, where I'm at personally, like, I can't hang with the animal violence. However, I still can respect what the movie is and the power behind the movie. And, like, but that's not even a movie you hate. I think it's I'd say it's a fantastic 5-star movie.
Okay.
Like, I stand by.
I still haven't seen it. I've got it right here.
You never seen Cannibal Holocaust?
I've never seen Cannibal
The
Holocaust.
fuck? How?
I don't know, dude. Someone just lent it to me. I'm gonna watch it soon.
All right, we'll talk about it after you watch it.
Okay, great.
But that's what the fuck, man? How?
Don't know, dude.
I mean, I guess it happens.
No one wants to watch it with me, you know? It's like, it's not like, oh, let's watch this again. You know, it's just like, here, you can borrow it, dude.
It's like, here, man, you want to have some brews and smoke a bowl and fucking watch Cannibal Holocaust? And everyone's
I'm assuming that's gonna be what I'm saying though after I watch it. I'm gonna be trying to get other people to watch it. Hey, do you want to come over and fucking take some bong rips and watch Cannibal Holocaust.
I mean, it might take the edge off. I don't know. I guess, like, it's also in the context and, like, what people are looking for and stuff like that. But, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't like Friday the 13th. I've definitely shown Friday the 13th movies. But there's a reason behind it because, like, you know, I think it fits with whatever I'm aesthetically doing. Or because I need to make some money on this screening. So I'm definitely going to put one of those movies in there because people like these fucking movies. And then I can slide in the shit I actually like. So it's a little tit for tat for there. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. But, you know, we were talking before we did the podcast. I remember, like, this is years ago. Like high school. So it's probably 20 plus years ago.
Easy now.
So this is some fucking crazy, stupid double feature. So we had a mutual friend. Actually, we were in a band with him for a bit called this guy named Ozzy, Ben Osborne. But we always called him Ozzy, or he called himself Ozzy. And like,
he gave himself his own nickname.
Yeah, I don't understand that bullshit. Like, how certain people got to have their own fucking create their own nickname and like get.
It's like when Mike Thompson tried to get people to call him Pinch. You can't make up your own nickname, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
you can't just be Pinch now.
Fuck, I remember that. Yeah, that Pinch did not stick.
Yeah,
dude, I got fucking stuck with Chamberlain. Which, I mean, it's like, oh, Jimmy Chamberlain from the Smashing Pumpkins. Like, it didn't make any fucking...
It still pops into my head sometimes, and I just want to be like, yeah, well, Chamberlain.
People are like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's crazy.
Yeah, so I didn't get to pick my nickname. I got saddled with that for fucking, like...
Years.
And
you just have to be. You're just Chamberlain now.
I mean, there's definitely people from back in the day to be like, "Yo, Chamberlain."
It's like still when they see you when you go back to visit.
Yeah,
fuck, dude, hell yeah.
Because that's their fucking memory. So it's like you don't get to pick your name. Where were we going? Oh yeah, we were talking about Ozzy. So
okay.
I was like, how did we get on fucking nicknames? Fuck. Talk about fucking Mike Thompson trying to be Pinch. That's a fucking terrible nickname. What was even the purpose of the word, like, being called Pinch?
Like, you get pinched?
Oh, because when he wanted to be a cop. Okay, there it is.
Well, but I think that he was, I think the Pinch nickname is like he's the criminal, though, in the situation. I think this is post him, like, not getting into the academy. And he's just like, well, I'm fucking Pinch now, you know?
Yeah, it's like the villain turn.
Oh yeah,
it's
like, exactly. That was his heel turn, dude.
Yeah, but like I don't even think the Joker came up with his name as the Joker. They're like, hey, this guy looks like a fucking Joker.
He just keeps making. I don't know. He's some kind of Joker or something.
Yeah. It's like that guy's. He's got riddles. I guess he's the fucking Riddler or whatever.
Dude, who wrote that shit? Jesus.
That guy looks like a fucking penguin.
It's this guy's fucking name. Is that that's gotta be somebody's fucking bit already. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we probably stole someone's fucking terrible comedy bit. And we're probably gonna get some hate. Whatever. Anyway, where the fuck okay, Ozzy. Who did he even pick his nickname after this whole long rant?
I don't know. I mean, I guess if your last name is Osborne, you're Ozzy. Also,
yeah, I guess that's a default. So I went on a double date with him and his longtime girlfriend. So I don't even know who this girl was. I guess like they just needed a body, so I was single and available. Like I think Ozzy, like him and his girlfriend, like would always go on double dates as a cover so they could go do. I don't know. It never made sense. I went on a few different double dates with different girls with Ozzy and his girlfriend back in high school. At least 3 of them.
Okay.
Definitely didn't go anywhere in any of these. I don't think it was meant because like it wasn't even like an honest like, hey, you guys will hit it up. It's like, no, we just need a fucking body to go. We need a body. So anyway, this is about curating for a crowd. So we went and saw Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman movie. Milos Forman, written by Larry Karaszewski and Scott Alexander. Before, yes, it was a good movie, but like, I don't know why that was the movie. Yeah. Like Ozzy picked it, and then like, I was on this date with this girl, and we just didn't click. And I was like, oh, that's fine, whatever. And Ozzy was like, let's go back to your house, because he wanted to go make out with his girlfriend. I guess he couldn't go back to his place or her place to make out. So they had to go to my fucking parents' house in the basement. He's like, hey, man, can you put on Shogun Assassin? So this is the important thing of curation. If you're trying to have a makeup hookup night.
Wait, where is this? How is this related to what we're talking about?
I don't know. I just want to shoehorn this story in, is what it really gets down to.
Ozzy paid me $50 to mention him in the podcast.
Thanks. All right. I need the money. Look, man.
He slid me a Jackson.
That fucking.
I don't even know what Bill Jackson's on. Slid me a. It's 100, right?
No, it's 20.
Is it 20? Like, I'll say it wrong. What is that? Like a 250? None of this is in the podcast.
No, it's all in the podcast.
Ain't no way I'm admitting to the fucking film going public that I don't know which man is on the bill.
I mean,
which man is on the greenback? I have no clue.
That
dude.
will explain
Who
some.
fucking cares? Who ever cared?
Well, you were doing fucking counting money when you're an assistant manager. I hope you know what you.
I know what number it says on it, yo. I don't fucking know what man is on it.
That's a fair point. No one liked Andrew Jackson anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Whose man's is this?
So what for this whole story that has no purpose to what we're talking about at this point? I guess I was trying to make a correlation through
that
fucking.
Ozzy should have warned the girl about what film we're gonna watch first. Gonna watch first.
I actually advised, like, are you sure you want to put on Shogun Assassin?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not even like the most vile movie I owned or anything,
Yeah.
but it's like it's
Probably boring to that girl.
well, it wasn't boring. She didn't like violence. Like, she left and went into Ozzy's car and smoked weed because she was
This is your date.
Yeah, this is my date,
Mm-hmm.
because she was so traumatized. And then I guess it ruined out Ben and his girlfriend's makeout session because his girlfriends got mad at him. It's like, why'd you put on that movie?
I mean, she's right, but she should expect that from Ozzy.
Yeah, really. So, long story short is, like, you got to think about how you curate stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not put on Shogun Assassin.
Even at home. Think about even to your friends. Just be normal.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like,
You know, when I have like a group of people over, I don't put on like a Serbian film. You know, it's like just know your audience or whatever.
it's like, bro, let me show you some sick shit.
Yeah,
Literally. I mean, if you want people to leave your house, maybe you put on a Serbian film. Like, when you want to, like, clear motherfuckers out at the end of the night, it's like, just not leaving. It's like, hey, I'm gonna throw this on. You're welcome to hang out. I mean, that's curation too. When you want to clear out your fucking house,
Yeah.
you just put
everything has a purpose.
Exactly. So anything.
If you want the girl to go cry and smoke weed in the car, throw on Shogun Assassin. Just there's a formula to these things.
But yeah, so that's the formula. It's like, you got to think of what you curate. You got to think about what you're showing, and you got to be prepared to, like, give context. And sometimes you misfire. Like, I've definitely misfired on context, you know, or like, I think I'm giving context and it doesn't quite click. Which kind of brings me to Tightrope, which I just screened. Like, I got over 100 people for it, which was higher expectations than I had for a Clint Eastwood joint, you know? Nice. And I think I really like Tightrope. I think it's just sleazy. I think it's a different side of Clint. The audience watched it and, like, I think they were just stunned by it. Because, like, the whole fucking thing, you know, promoting it was like the fucking oiled up shot of Clint Eastwood's ass. When it hit the screen, it starts to, like, it's a camera move. It's just like it's like just panning, or no, it might be my whatever camera move. We'll just say panning. It's panning along. You see this fucking ass in close up, like filling the whole frame. And it's like, oh, is that the woman's ass or something? And then you see it's Clint.
Hell
It's
yeah.
a continuous shot. And I think people were just like, oh my God.
It's great ass.
It's great ass. I mean, the movie, I think because it's Clint Eastwood and people have a certain expectation, it's either like spaghetti western, Man with No Name, Clint Eastwood, or Dirty Harry. And because, like, it's a weird, it's a weird out of step performance for him because like he's kind of vulnerable in it and all that. And like I thought it sold it pretty well. Audience kind of didn't react or anything to it, but it also might be because it's just like, how do you prepare someone for like Clint Eastwood doing basically his version of Cruising?
Mm-hmm.
You really can't, because it's something you have to see.
Yeah. Did you frame it as such? I mean,
No.
is that kind of saying too much?
I did mention it was like, it's a sleazy movie. I did say it's like Clint making basically American Giallo.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he probably not intentionally. It wasn't like he's like sat down and watched like Dario Argento or Sergio Martino. It was like, yep. I mean, he's not the credited director, but he sure as shit directed the movie.
Okay.
And I was gonna mention this during rewatch and listen, but I'll mention it now because like after I watched Tightrope, I went and watched Sudden Impact, which is a Dirty Harry movie. It was the movie he made the year before Tightrope, and like if you want evidence that he directed both of those movies start exactly the same with fucking helicopter shots. Okay. Like starts like these wide helicopter shots that zooms into the town. Both movies has Clint Eastwood getting dogs.
Getting dogs?
Yeah, like he gets a pet dog.
Just retrieving dogs?
Yeah, because he picks up stray dogs in like Tightrope, and then like he gets a dog in fucking Sudden Impact. Yeah. So it's I don't know what he was on. He's like, well, doing a movie.
It just shows you have compassion. You just go and pick up stray dogs or whatever.
Exactly.
That's what people with compassion do.
Yeah, just pick up stray dogs, and well, the one stray dog he picked up in Tightrope was very important because it saved his ass. His oiled up ass. But anyway. So curation and all that, and we've done programming episodes, and what I'm basically getting at is like whether you're doing online screening, you're doing like a screening at your house, or you're presenting a movie in a movie theater, you do have to put some thought into what you're showing and what's behind it. Because I know there's a lot of people that just like do shotgun programming where they just load up, fire it against the wall, and like, this is what we're fucking showing. And, like, sometimes that works, but then sometimes it's just, like, a mix match of, like, stuff. And, like, you get weird double features or, like, things that just don't gel. And it's like, what is your purpose other than, like, do you just want to show this movie? And sometimes that's fine, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like in this day and age, it's, like, it's kind of important to, like, give context to what you're curating.
Did you see that that Narrowhead is playing at Braindead and they're screening Grandma's Boy in conjunction with the show?
Why?
I mean, I don't know, but it's like the coolest show and screening this year, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I wish I knew about it.
Actually, the funny not funny thing is Monday. It's the 20th.
Yeah, it's Night Game.
Yeah. And you're pretty damn excited about Night Game, so
I'm pretty excited. Night Game, that's selling well too. So
yeah, great.
It's like I feel like I'm not on a bubble, but I really don't know sometimes what other theaters are doing.
But yeah, I mean, but they're right. Like I'm sure you like follow them on social media and whatnot. Like, but no.
Actually, no.
I guess I'll cut this out. You don't follow Braindead?
No, I do actually. I actually follow everyone, and it's not because it's. Just, I'm curious what other people are doing. Because if I see someone, if I see someone doing something cool, like that's really, even if I can't go to it, like I get excited. Like I get excited when New Beverly drops their fucking teaser trailer because like I'm just excited to see what they're doing because like I'm friends with people that work there. I'm friends with Phil. I'm excited to see like what they got lined up. I'm excited to see anyone's new lineup. I mean, in my defense, we
actually do like film.
Yeah, we. No, actually I don't.
It's a love-hate relationship. So, sometimes we even go see stuff at other places.
Yeah. But, like, I also feel like the way social media is, especially now, it's like, I see just mostly fucking bullshit and people complaining instead of seeing what cool shit people are actually showing or doing.
Yeah.
Which brings me to this next thing.
Now, the internet is just generally cynical. You know what I mean? It's not cool to say you like things.
No, not at all. And it's kind of weird because, like, I'd rather... I've tried my best to curate the things I see. Again, using the word curate. It's like, I want to, like, the things I want to curate that I want to see is, like, people, like, what's everyone doing? Because, like, I want to see what people are doing in town, what cool shit they're showing. I want to see what my friends who are programmers across the country are showing. I just want to, like, see people, like, putting in work and, like, doing positive shit. Even if they're showing grimy movies or, like, weird movies, or they're showing like a series that I don't particularly like. If it's a genre I don't care about, I don't care. I just want to see, like, don't like musicals, but I really like how they put this together. Because, like, I like Inside Baseball too, which is not a reference to Night Game, but what I see instead, like, I didn't know about Narrowhead and fucking Grandma's Boy. I'm trying to figure out what the correlation
Well,
is.
I think that they they curated it.
So, like, the band picked the movie.
band picked Grandma's Boy, yeah.
Or maybe it's just, like, that's a movie they liked. You're like, oh, we get to pick a movie? Fucking Grandma's Boy.
I think that that's what it is, yeah. I think that's totally just it. There's like, nothing really beyond that.
Yeah.
It's just, like, what movie defines you as a band? What movie do you guys watch over and over every night on tour? And it's probably, like, why wouldn't it be Grandma's Boy?
That's a valid point. And, like, that's a different style of curation because, like, when I think of curation, there's a lot of thought in what I'm doing. And sometimes when you ask someone, like, hey, just pick a movie you want to show with if you're a band or whatever, it's like, has probably not even a reflection of, like, what the band is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's bands that, like, really, really think about it, like, we're going to show this fucking David Lynch movie.
Yeah. No, as a band, I would hope that you're either showing if you're showing Grandma's Boy, you're showing Freddy Got Fingered. This is your options.
The only two options. But getting back to, like, I never saw this from Brain Dead, and I do follow them, is because the algorithm is fucked. So instead, what I see is bullshit that has happened. I mean, it's been going on for a few years, but it seems to be, like, peaking again. And it peaks every few months, but it seems like it's more and more, which is sex in films and television. I guess we're in this age now where young kids or young adults, I don't want to say they're kids, there's a lot of them that are very Puritan. And they don't like sex.
They don't do drugs. They don't drink.
They're just straight edge.
They don't work.
They don't work.
They don't have jobs.
Well, I guess so if you're watching everything and have a time to comment on it. I don't know. But it's weird to me because, like, there's definitely people. I know some people were being sarcastic, but there's also people that, like, really, really wanted to go back to, like, the Hays Code day. And for those of you who don't know your film history, there was a period of time where Hollywood was implemented with the Hays Code, which was a self-form of censorship, where, like, there couldn't be an on-screen kiss longer than, like, 10 seconds, or, like, married couples had to sleep in separate beds, or, like, just weird things where, like...
Here's my take on that, though,
Okay.
dude, is that I think that if you would argue that sex doesn't need to be in a film, you don't know what the Hays Code is.
Oh, definitely.
And what I'm saying is, these aren't film buffs complaining about this.
No.
These are normie. I don't know. I mean, but again, maybe not. Maybe the younger generation are cinephiles that are adverse to, I don't know. I mean, it's
a weird thing because on one hand, you have a young audience that, like, shits on anything that's old. But then, on the other hand, you have I don't even know if it's the same young audience. It might be a completely different young audience that's, like, wants to go back to that fucking era. They want to go back to, like, 1940s fucking morals of, like, everyone had a happy ending. If you did something bad, you died, There's no moral gray area or whatever. And people certainly weren't fucking. I mean, there's a lot of filmmakers that cheated around the Hays Code and, like, that kind of stuff. But, like, when that got removed and, like, you could say fuck in a movie, and at least in America, or you could show, like, nudity or, graphic violence was becoming more violent, like, people went off. The 70s, people just went nuts.
So when was the Hays Code dropped?
It was, like, late 60s.
Really?
Like, when you...
Really, that late?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was, like, when you started getting, like, Easy Rider and, like, Midnight Cowboy and things that. They introduced a rating system, so you got your R, your X, and GP, which became PG and G, that kind of stuff. But, like, there was definitely people, but I guess the thing that's most insane to me is, like, I've seen this multiple times now, and like I can't believe a fucking human being would actually fucking type this. I didn't consent to watching the sex scene. I feel like I've, been assaulted by it.
Sometimes it bothers me that I don't know where film Twitter is, where it exists. But yeah, I'm glad I don't know where film Twitter is.
I don't even want to know where it is. It's because like
No, I'm just kidding. I did see that tweet, and it fucking sucks.
It's insane. I mean, okay. This is I'm going to be nice and cordial and, if it's not for you, if you don't like sex in movies, if you don't like, that kind of stuff or anything. Well, I mean, it's just anything. If you only want if you only watch movies that have your morality, that's fine.
Why don't you just go sit and stare at a mirror, buddy?
I'm going to be nice. This is going to be the part where I'm nice here. If there's some part of your morality that you don't want to see, like sex in movies, nudity, swearing, violence, whatever it is, that's fine. You can choose not to watch those things. I think
go see Left Behind.
What is Left Behind?
The Kirk Cameron produced like Christian
Oh,
series.
those things. I don't even know if they actually watched those.
I think there's like a new one that was just in theaters.
Well, yeah, I guess there is that more. I mean, if Passion of the Christ can make billions of dollars, I'm sure Kirk Cameron can get like a little
Passion of Christ has graphic violence.
That's that. We'll get in that in a second here, but like, it's just like if you don't like certain things in art, you don't have to engage with the art. You can select the art. You can curate for yourself what you watch. However, if you demand other people only watch the things that you're happy with, fuck you. Straight up, fuck you. Because you don't get to dictate.
I didn't consent to your fucking dog shit ass morality.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a you problem. If you don't want to see people having sex in a movie, that's fine. But if you think I shouldn't be able to see sex in a movie, fuck you. That's your problem. I'm an adult. I can watch what I want. But it's just like people want to like, it's just the discourse on it is like insane to me. It's like,
no, but like those tweets that we're talking about, and I think that the majority of this discourse is happening online. Like, do people really talk about this? I mean, I guess we're talking about this in person, but are people really talking about this in person going like, I hate sex in film? I mean, I have a hard time believing that this really exists, that someone just wants to eradicate sex scenes in films entirely. Like, I just have a hard time believing that this person exists. Is this just an online troll, dude?
Is it online, or is it just like, or is it?
And also, just people that are terminally online also just have a fucking brain rot, and that's part of this.
I think that's more of what it is. Because like it's just we can talk about like there's awkward times where sex scenes come up. I think it's a rite of passage for any like kid growing up is when you watch an uncomfortable sex scene with your parents.
Please tweet at us and tell us what was the uncomfortable the film you saw, the first film you saw with an uncomfortable sex scene that you saw with your parents.
Oh, I got plenty.
Let us know.
I got plenty.
Yeah.
I made my dad take me to go see Bram Stoker's Dracula, and
cool.
when the three vampire vixen ladies pop out of the bed with their breasts out and they're like fondling on Keanu Reeves, that was a little awkward. I remember seeing Rising Sun, the non-Jurassic Park adaptation of a Michael Crichton novel with Wesley Snipes and Sean Connery. There's a scene where like I guess some criminal is like eating sushi off a naked woman. He's like pouring like wine on their like nipples and like sucking it off, and I'm watching this with my dad in the theater. I'm like, oh my god, I'm like so fucking embarrassed. I mean, but it is a rite of passage. It's like, yeah. I mean, I guess, but I think the way sex is in a lot of minds, especially in America, is that America's just always had a problem with fucking or like talking about it. Like, I don't know about you, when I was growing up, like sex ed wasn't really helpful.
No. I had all kind of crazy ideas when I was a kid.
I mean, I did too, because like no one actually fucking explained it. It's like, oh, here's a dick, here's a vagina, and that's it. It's like, well,
yeah.
What do you do? We're not here to tell you that.
I mean, you'll fucking figure it out.
Well, you had to, otherwise, I don't know.
Trial and error.
But like, I just feel like because like this is a paraphrase, and I don't know if it's exact Roger Ebert quote. It might not be a Roger Ebert quote, but like, because like in Europe, there's lots of like sex and nudity in films, and it's just normal. It's just a thing. But like over here, it's like really, really taboo. And like what Ebert said was like, you know, you can show a naked woman in a movie as long as you threw blood on her because violence was so much more acceptable. Unless it was in a horror movie and it was an unrealistic, like, violent death, then that was a problem. But you can have like, and as I'm saying this, 'cause now I feel like I'm sounding like the anti-violence in movies prude, which there's enough of those assholes too. I'm fine, you know. I can tell the difference between like someone firing 1,000,000 bullets in a John Woo movie and like fucking billions of squibs going off on like bodies. Like, that's just a movie. I don't want to see anyone get shot in real life, you know, because that's a different kind of thing.
I watch both.
But you know what I mean? It's just like, it seems like violence is so much more acceptable than like sex. And like, I think this is a problem in just America in general, because like, if you look at like all the laws that have passed and recently, you're like, think of how many fucking school shootings we've had since Columbine. Or just how many fucking like active shooters or like that kind of shit. And really nothing's kind of changed. But think about how many times people have gone after like things that are related to sex in this country, like trying to get rid of abortion laws or birth control, or like, you know, trans people having.
I guess I forgot that overly religious people exist. So
yeah,
you know, some of that is definitely where this mentality comes from.
And you gotta think, going back to the Hays Code, you know who fucking like oversaw the Hays Code? The Catholic Church.
Reagan.
Well, Reagan years later.
The Catholic Church.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church are to blame for a lot of
the
bullshit in the world, for sure.
I mean,
they ruin movies too.
They do. Except for, well, yeah, I like Last Pit. I think there's good Catholic art. Like Martin Scorsese's made great movies. Okay. But like, I think as a religion, there's no real bad religions. It's just, well, there's a good bad religion. They're a pretty good band.
What's your favorite bad religion record?
Shit, that's a good question. Maybe Suffer or No Control.
I think I always go No Control, but I love that Against the Grain, Generator, that whole era, you know?
Yeah, there's like a block of like 4 of them. Like Against the Grain, Generator, No Control, Suffer. Like that old block is like, that's just banger central.
Yep.
But like, you know, it's, again, I don't really care what anyone's religion is. However, going back to like the people like saying like movies need to be a certain way, if you're telling me I have to live by your moral code or whatever religion you practice, fuck you.
Right. Like you can do whatever you want, but don't tell me what to do.
Exactly. As long as I'm not breaking the law or doing something that's like, you know, repulsive or like really reprehensible, that's actually harming other people, it doesn't matter what I watch. It doesn't matter what music I listen to or what fucking, you know, books I read, or like what TV show I watch, or like what fucking video game I played if I had played video games. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. But like when you get to the point where like you're trying to tell people how to engage with art, or like how art should be engaged with, or what art should be, you're just a fucking asshole. And I think you're right. It's just like, it's a lot of terminally online people, because I think there's just a whole generation, like, they were born on the internet. They basically popped out of the womb, fucking like plugged into the modem, and just like start surfing the web. And, you know, things without context or whatever. And again, it's also how things are curated. Like, you know, some people have to take responsibility for what you consume as art, because like, you know, movies, there's fucking ratings. There's also Wikipedia. There's Google. You can learn anything about a movie. So if you're like, I'm going to Google this movie. Oh, there's lots of sex and drug use. Maybe this is not for me. Maybe I'll watch fucking Rin Tin Tin or whatever shit. I don't know. I don't know why I'm pulling Rin Tin Tin out of my ass for this. For like fucking Care Bears or fucking, I don't know. What's a fucking G-rated movie? Like fucking Pokemon. Like fucking playing Pokemon. Like, if that's what your fucking happiness is like the exploitation of fucking creatures that you put in a little canister, go for it. I mean, it's not real. You know, I guess with all this discourse, it's like, you know, is art even safe? Is like going to the movies safe? It's like, because I'll say this, like,
I hope not.
no, it shouldn't be safe. Like, you should be pushed by art in a lot of different ways. And I'll say this now, like, everyone's talking about like sex in movies. This is probably the most sexless era of fucking cinema going.
Yeah.
Like, mainstream wise, it's like, yeah, I think 90s there's erotic thrillers.
These superheroes be fucking.
These here, I don't know, they're not.
I have no clue.
I mean, I'm not watching them. I mean, I'm assuming PG-13. You're not getting fucking like Batman deep dicking someone or whatever.
The Penguin fucking railing the Riddler.
I mean, it'd probably make for a more interesting movie. I guess with this discussion, it's just like, part of me is like, get off my fucking lawn. Take your fucking bullshit.
I mean, yeah, maybe we are just being fucking old men.
But at the same time,
maybe the kids know better, and we should probably take all these sex scenes out.
No, fuck them kids.
Yeah.
And it's also, the other thing is, like, I also think, like, a lot of terminally online people have no life experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything they do and learn is based on a fucking YouTube video or a fucking something they've seen online. It's, no one lives life. Like, when we were growing up, we didn't have the internet until, like, maybe, like, high school.
Back in my day.
Back in your day. Back in our day. Like, what, 98, 99 when that shit was starting to pop?
When the internet was popping off?
Yeah.
Back in the AOL chat room?
Yeah, when you had to, like, fucking get, like, the CD-ROM that had the 50 hours of internet on it or whatever it was. Or AOL or whatever fucking shit. Which always reminds me when I, like, work with, like, certain, like, you know, try to book guests or, like, certain, like, distributors that occasionally still run into people who have AOL emails.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they're still functioning, but whatever. It has nothing to do with any of this. Other than the dawn of the internet. But I feel like people, goddamn, just go outside. Go to a fucking park. Go talk to a human being that isn't on a fucking, you know, you're not typing. You're actually talking. You know, engage with real life. I guess the big picture is, as we're talking about curation and living, you know, people choosing to be no sex, sexless. I don't know. I thought that Iron Lung record and that song when I kept sawing this discourse, and I'm just going to drop it in right here. Yeah, so that's Iron Lung. But I don't know, it's just like I feel like it's self-oppression, really. It's like, you know, it's fine if you don't want to watch this stuff, but also, again, don't expect everyone else to live up to your morality. Don't be Tipper Gore. Don't be the PMRC. Don't be the religious right. Like, don't try to, like, that's the weird thing, because, like, a lot of this, like, stuff is, like, left-leaning or allegedly left-leaning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to get into that, you know. It's just like, but it's, I don't know. On one hand, you know, we're told that, like, 9-year-olds are, like, watching porn all day on their phone or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just like that. I mean, you just have, like, such a easy access with our devices that just at any age you can see beheadings, you can see whatever the fuck you want at any age on the internet. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, you know, kids just a couple years older than that supposedly have grown up watching porn on their phone, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't want to see a simple sex scene in a film. I don't know. It's just weird. I just don't understand where anyone is coming from anymore. I don't understand.
I think also is because it's not private.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're watching a movie on your phone, it's different than watching it on a TV in front of other people. Mm-hmm. And maybe, like, I don't know. Maybe it's because people are just, like, not comfortable with themselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
again, I don't want to watch a sex scene with my mom.
I mean,
you know?
No one really does. But, like, again, I think it's just an awkward rite of passage that every kid should have to go through. Like, when you accidentally pick a movie and there's a really, I mean, shit, man. It's like you could be, I'm sure there's someone that's watched Basic Instinct with their parents. I'm
Mhm.
sure there's someone's watched Showgirls with their parents.
Right. Cemetery Man.
Yeah, it's like, oh, let's watch this scary movie, and it's just like, oh no. But it's weird. Like that's more offensive than like violence
Mm-hmm.
and like graphic violence. And like, I'm fine with violence in movies. But like, it's something to be said that people are more comfortable with like a superhero movie where a fucking planet blows up where like millions of people die than people having sex.
Yeah.
Like people doing something that's like an act of like pleasure, procreation, whatever you want to call it. Like people having a nice time with each other instead of like blowing up planets or shooting each other and stuff. Like why is the stigma that that's fucking horrible? I think most people don't know what it means. Like they just don't engage with anything. And it's like because everyone wants to be curated in this very, very safe world.
Yeah.
And I get that because the world fucking sucks. Like, the outside world, I should say. There's a lot of bad shit out there and people want to create a bubble. But because you create your own bubble doesn't mean everyone else should live in it. Yeah. And basically you shouldn't watch what you want to show in your bubble. People are allowed to watch what they want in their bubble. So
I think to me, that's the most important takeaway. Is stop telling other people what they should be able to watch or what should be made or anything else. If you can't take the heat, I don't know, man. Seriously, fucking go away.
I mean, and then that's the other thing when we were talking about like Brain Dead or like New Beverly, whatever. It's like, I'm not the only game in town film programming. In fact, the Cinematheque has like fucking tons of programming. I do one show a week.
Mm-hmm.
So there's plenty of opportunities. If you don't like what I'm showing 1 month, someone might be showing something you like.
Go see Tommy Boy tomorrow.
Exactly. Like
It's a
literally.
masterpiece.
Yeah,
On
Tom.
35 millimeter.
Yeah, Tom.
I think it's Chris Farley's birthday or something. I think we're celebrating that
It's
every
Chris.
year now.
It's Chris Farley's birthday, and I think his cousin, who's an actor, I think Tom Farley's doing an intro.
Oh, great.
Which I think it's Tom Farley. I hope I'm not making up a name because the movie's Tommy Boy, but it's one of Chris Farley's relatives is coming out.
Very cool.
But yeah, go see that. You might have a nostalgia thing. Like I looked last night, I showed Tightrope, and they played Mean Girls after it.
Fuck yeah.
That you should have choices. There's plenty of choices out there. That's why there's multiple streaming services. Yeah, sometimes they all have the same shit, but like there's curated stuff. Like if you're in the mood for like you want to watch art house shit, Criterion Channel. You want to watch 80s horror. You have Tubi, you have Shudder, you have Arrow Video Player. You want to watch documentaries. I'm sure there's a streaming service for that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Nat Geo,
yeah. You want to watch fucking Marvel and Star Wars movies? Disney Plus is
go
right there.
fuck yourself.
Well, that too, but
Say what you were going to say instead,
right.
please.
all right, this is gonna be a fucking mess, isn't it?
It always is. Don't worry.
And if you really do love Star Wars, Marvel, and like that kind of shit, you have Disney Plus sitting right there. So you have your options to watch movies that are completely sexless to movies that have plenty of sex. And it doesn't, if one person makes one choice over the other, that's fine. Because again, enjoy what you want in your personal bubble. Don't tell anyone else what they should be enjoying, because that just makes you an asshole. So we're going to take a break here, and then we're going to talk about some movies that, I'm curating, I guess, and may or may not have sex in them. Actually, I don't think any of these movies have sex. So, oh yeah. Too much sex in cinema. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the March lineup for Cinematic Void on, you guessed it, the Cinematic Void podcast.
Oh, you startled me. I was just on the phone with a special friend. He calls often, but sometimes it gets, well, I have lots of special friends. Do you need someone to get close to? It's really simple. Jot down my number. You better hurry before my line gets busy again. I'll be waiting for you. $4.99 per minute, adults only.
Welcome back. We were talking about movie curation, a whole bunch of other stuff. And since this is Cinematic Void and we show movies, I guess we'll talk about some movie curation that we do on our own and talk about what's coming up in March at the Los Feliz 3. The theme for March is going to be kind of movies within movies. I think the title I'm half-ass giving is March Movie Madness, showing 4 movies that, take place in movie theaters. And we're going to kick things off with kind of it's a void movie, I think, but like it's also kind of like maybe more on the mainstream side of things that I would normally show, which is Matinee.
How could such a thing happen, Dr. Cabal?
The ant's saliva must have gotten into Bill's bloodstream and gone straight to his brain, just as the radiation, which is measured in units called Roentgens, was released.
And that's how he became a...
Mant.
Gotcha.
For the kids of Key West, Florida, there was nothing scarier than a monster matinee.
Lawrence Wolsey, the master of movie horror, exterminates you with Mant.
The story of Mant is based on scientific fact, on theories that have appeared in national magazines.
But in the fall of 1962,
a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on the island of Cuba.
they got the biggest scare of all.
They're gonna bomb us?
The country is on red alert.
What a perfect time to open a new horror movie.
That'd be the best show to take a girl to.
The whole world's gonna blow up anyway, so we should just do whatever we want.
You know, last guy she went out with in her farm school?
He did teach me a lot.
What about?
About my body.
Think if the bomb were about to fall, she'd do it with me?
Wait till you see the feelers on this thing.
Uno, dos, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Some of it's stage lighting, some of it's magic show stuff, but the big studios, none of them have anything like it. Do never, ever turn one above 6.
This is it!
From Joe Dante, director of Gremlins.
You see what he's putting back? The showmanship.
The bombs are falling!
You think this is some kind of picnic for me?
I'm still concerned about that bomb thing.
Little question of taste.
No, but your younger patrons, you could have some seat wetness.
John Goodman,
I love this business.
Matinee.
Man, I've seen this twice.
Now, you've seen Matinee, right?
I've never seen Matinee. I'm aware that it's like John Goodman and that Joe Dante directed it, but I really don't know too much about it otherwise.
It's a fucking great movie. It's like, kind of it's set during the Cold War, and like John Goodman plays kind of like a William Castle type guy, and he's basically, he's got gimmick movies, like gimmick horror movies, and like he's got this new movie he's like promoting that just so happens to be being screened during the Cuban Missile Crisis, where everyone thinks like we're about to go to war with Russia, kind of stuff. So it's like it's got that in the background. It's like it's a really great movie. Like, sincerely great, nice little throwback to, like, that era. John Goodman's terrific in it.
Cool.
And because of this Joe Dante movie, you get Dick Miller in there as well as Robert Picardo, who's he's the main werewolf in The Howling. John Sayles, who wrote The Howling, Piranha, has a little cameo in it. And Kathy Moriarty, who is and Raging Bull's also in it. So, and for this screening, I should mention all these are going to be on 35 millimeter. Joe Dante's actually coming out and doing a Q&A for Matinee, so cool. I've met Joe a few times. I've never done a Q&A with him, so I'm really excited.
Nice.
So that's going to be week 1 of March Movie Madness. For week 2, showing a movie that a lot of people like, and it's been requested over the years and kind of just made sense for this series. However, I'm going to put an asterisk here, because currently, as we're recording this, we're still trying to figure out who's got theatrical rights. We know who put out the Blu-ray. Don't know who's got theatrical. And I'm hoping, and I think this will be worked out, so I feel okay, but I'm going to put up an asterisk of when this podcast comes out and this is not the movie playing, you know why, because we didn't clear rights. But hopefully for week 2, we are showing Popcorn.
Before the horror of Halloween. Before the fear of Friday the 13th. Before the evil of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Before them all, there was... Now, 15 years later, he's back.
Oh, yes. There's something happening here that I've been looking for all of my life. There's smoke. Someone takes her hand. She's running. The same man comes towards her.
I'm in a dream.
I remember the whole thing.
Are you ready?
Popcorn. Buy a bag. Go home in a box.
Now, Popcorn is a really kind of interesting production. It was started as a movie directed by Alan Ormsby, who worked with Bob Clark a lot. Bob Clark, who did Black Christmas stuff. Alan and Bob worked together on Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, as well as Death Dream, that kind of stuff. And for some reason, Alan got fired during the production, and Mark Harrier took over as director. Mark was one of the stars of the movie Porky's, directed by Bob Clark. But then there's been rumors, which have kind of been sort of confirmed, that some of it was directed by Bob Clark, although he goes uncredited on the movie. The movie stars Jill Schoelen, who was in The Stepfather. Dee Wallace, who was in Joe Dante's The Howling, also is in it. Jill's actually going to come out for this screening. I've never done a Q&A with Jill. Like, I've helped other people get her for Q&As, but it never worked out. So I'm really happy she's going to come out and talk about this movie, because she wasn't the original actor in the role she's playing. She came in late during, like, kind of like whatever shit was going on behind the scenes in the movie. So really interesting perspective from her on there. And movie is also notable because it was shot in Jamaica, and because it was shot in Jamaica, it has a fucking killer reggae soundtrack, which is really interesting for like a horror movie if you think about it. Like, if you've never seen Popcorn, it's basically there's this killer that like wears all kinds of disguises and like is bumping off college students during like a horror movie marathon at an abandoned theater. It's a really cool movie, and like a lot of people like it. I think the last time it played, at least in LA, was at the Aero Horrorthon back in 2017, so it's been quite a few years. Moving along, on week 3, we're showing kind of a, I'd say, a little bit art house horror. It's from director Biggest Luna. It is Anguish.
Mrs. Pressman had high hopes for her son, John.
John is your best boy, isn't he, Mother?
Yes, John. You're my best boy and the best surgeon in town.
But the world conspired against him.
I told you to take these things out of my eyes.
Don't get upset. I
Take them out. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
You'll be sorry.
Until John found a way to please his mother.
Well, you did a good job, John.
Add to his collection.
All the eyes of the city will be ours.
And even get into the movies.
One, please.
You have no idea what it's like to really suffer. Ren, don't stop!
No one is going to leave here.
Do it. Don't stop.
Anguish.
See what happens when you disobey Mother?
Anguish.
Now, did you ever see Anguish back in the day?
I have not.
Actually, have you ever seen Popcorn? I didn't even ask you that either.
I have not.
Wow.
I've only seen one of these.
Oh, man, we'll get to that one. Shocking that for the one that you've seen. But I think you would like Anguish. It's a really dark and twisted movie. It's got Zelda Rubinstein, who's best known for being in Poltergeist. She plays kind of like a psychotic mom that uses like telepathy to like control her son, played by Michael Lerner, who's in like Barton Fink and Maniac Cop 2 and stuff like that, to go and like kill people. And then it becomes a movie within a movie. It's really fucking trippy. It's really kind of like, it's really kind of grim and grimy too. So like it's a nasty little movie. So if you've never seen Anguish, definitely check it out. It's actually part of the Cinematheque's Biggest Luna retrospective. They're showing a bunch of his films.
Okay.
And like,
what else has he done?
I haven't really seen anything else outside of Anguish, which I'm kind of stoked to have the opportunity to see more stuff. And like I do know, because I just watched Perdita Durango recently. He was actually the original director on it, and he got fired off that. I feel like we talked about a lot of directors being fired off of movies, but he did this one, wasn't fired off this one. And for the last week of this March Movie Madness, we're showing a movie that it's kind of a bucket list title that I've been wanting to screen for a while. It's the one you've seen, and I know you're a huge fan of it. We're showing Peter Bogdanovich's Targets.
Thank you for the food we're about to receive in the Lord's name. Amen.
Amen.
A typical American family at dinner. Mom and Dad, their beautiful daughter-in-law, and their only son, Joe, a homicidal maniac.
Harry! What are you doing?
How's your dad? It's okay.
Here you go. Thanks a lot. What you hunt this time?
Gonna shoot some pigs.
Targets, a movie about a war inside a man's head.
Hey, what are you doing?
Peter Bogdanovich, the director of The Last Picture Show, takes you for a roller coaster ride through the canyons of a disturbed mind in Targets.
Stay in there, keep down! Oh, there's somebody shooting out here! Open the window! Roll your window down! There's a sniper in here!
What turns an all-American boy into an all-American killer?
Now, Targets, it's always a little bit tricky movie because of the subject matter. It basically deals with a sniper, Vietnam vet, who basically something breaks down and he just starts sniping people. And also at the same time, there's a kind of a drive-in movie thing where like a retiring horror star is giving one last hurrah, and that's played by Boris Karloff, and probably his, I don't want to say his best performance, but definitely like in career for Karloff is definitely top tier, and it's definitely like him kind of playing off like the movies he has, being Frankenstein's monster, The Mummy, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like a great little send-off for him, and like he's terrific in it. But like it's also a pretty rough and tough and nasty little movie too. I think we talked about this. I think we talked about it when we did the drive-in episode.
Yep.
When we talked about like that and like Drive-In Massacre and a couple other things or whatever. But like I've been wanting to screen this for a couple years. Like when I was doing the original lineup for 60 Shockers last year, before I decided to do all black and white 60s movies, Targets was on that list.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think we may have even had an episode planned to talk about Targets, and we replaced it.
We might have.
I could be wrong. I can't remember. Like I feel like I don't know. This off topic, but yeah, I feel like I maybe just watched it on my own, but like I never watched it for the podcast in particular. I feel like I would remember that.
Yeah,
so I don't think we actually like talked about it.
No, we basically just kind of mentioned it in passing. Yeah. But
anyway.
But either way, I would like to talk about Targets a little more in depth because like it's a heavy movie and there's like a lot. I mean, it's still fucking relevant, and it came out in 1968. It might be more relevant now, which is the way of the world, but that's going to be the March lineup at the Los Feliz 3. However, there is another Cinematic Void show. It's going to be on March 11th down at the Aero Theater in beautiful Santa Monica. And it's going to be a little tricky to talk about this one because, well, I'm not going to tell you what I'm playing, but it's a marathon. It's called 7 Deadly Cins. Sins spelled C-I-N-S, because Cinematic Void Sins, whatever, very punny. And basically, Cinematic Void turned 7 this year. We said that earlier in the episode. So I originally really wanted to do for the 5-year anniversary. I wanted to do a 5-film marathon and kind of play some of the hits from the past, and didn't get a chance to do it in 5-year anniversary. 6-year anniversary was still kind of getting her bearings, you know. So this year, I just kind of mentioned the Cinematheque. This is what I like to do, and they're like, yeah, you can do it. So 7 films, all 35 millimeter. All have played Cinematic Void previously, 2 of which didn't play on film when they originally played. How do I talk about this without like spoiling anything? Because I don't want to spoil it. But I'll say a couple things. There's 1 Italian language print in there. There's 2 movies that are scope. There's, I don't know, it's a good variety. It's not all horror. It's not all one genre. It's kind of all over the place. It's kind of, you know, it's quintessential Cinematic Void. And I'd say, I think everything.
How many sex comedies we got?
1.
How many? No, that's cool.
Got 1.
Right on.
I mean, there's 1 sex comedy. There's 1 Italian language print. There is, I think, 2.
So 2 on scope, but that's not either of those 2.
No.
Okay.
So that's different. You know, I kind of want to do a contest to see how close someone can come to try to figure out this lineup.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
at least there's some clues. Like,
yeah.
You know. Well, plus it's things you've already screened. So
yeah.
There's a limited choice.
Well, there's 300 different movies they could choose from. But to be fair, everything was within the first 5 years. And there's a couple from, I wasn't being conscious. I was like, there's a couple things that went into this, and we can talk about this because, again, this is curation. It's like, how do you summarize 7 years? And because you still have to have a budget, because like you can't fly in a bunch of, or ship in a bunch of prints for this because it gets way too expensive. So you have to use a mix of like studio, local pickups, which you'll be picking up. Actually, you might be helping project this.
Yep.
Good chance. You know, so I wanted to do a good mix of like basically everything. Actually, I'll give you 1 clue. There are no Giallo films in this. And the reason being is because we just wrapped January Giallo.
Yep.
I just kind of felt like, let that one, give that genre a little bit of a breather. But there is an Italian language print in there. What is it? You're going to have to show up and find out. So that's what's happening with Cinematic Void in March. We're going to take another quick break here. I feel like we talked less about the actual lineup of things we're actually doing and talked more about just dumb shit this episode.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's fine. But that wraps up what's coming up in the Void in March. We're going to take one last commercial break, but when we return, it's going to be Read, Watch, and Listen here on the Cinematic Void Podcast.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Welcome back. It's now time for on the Cinematic Void Podcast, where we talk about all the things we've been reading, watching, and or listening to since the last time we recorded a podcast. Nick, why don't you tell us what you've been reading, watching, and or listening to?
All right. I've been listening to that new Narrowhead record that came out maybe a Friday or 2 ago called Moments of Clarity. And it's grungy, grungy emo, whatever, like that sound. We've been talking about it. But yeah, that's been waiting for that thing to drop now for a while. They've had like a couple songs out, and I think it's really sick. I actually, come to think of it, I don't actually know anything about Narrowhead. They've been around for a while and have a couple records at this point, but yeah, I don't know anything about them.
Other than they like Grandma's Boy.
I guess, like I said, they're playing at Brain Dead and screening Grandma's Boy. That's really cool. But yeah, I don't know where they're fucking from or anything like that, but yeah, so that record's rad. I've been listening to the Inclination LP that came out last year called Unaltered Perspective. It's just some some straight edge hardcore. And then I've also been listening to the Weapon demo that I've probably talked about here before, but it's just like a 5-song EP of fast, heavy, straight edge hardcore that's just like, man, it's just a fucking earworm, dude. I just listen to it over and over. And the Incendiary LP from I think 2017 called 1,000 Mile Stare. That is just such a fucking banger. Just the riffs are so memorable. It's just so heavy. It's so sick. It's so catchy. Yeah, so that's what I've been listening to. I haven't been reading much lately. Yeah, I got this book called Extreme Music recently that I think is really sick. That's like a lot about like packaging and like weird like cassette packaging and just like records made out of sandpaper and just like all types of weird, just like weird shit. But to say I've been like reading, I've been flipping through books such as this. And for watch, I've still been on my fucking David Mamet shit. I'm going to be talking about State and Maine pretty soon. And Homicide on the Bitchin' About Movies podcast with old Frank. It's just sitting right here while we've been podcasting this entire time. So I just watched both of those. And I just watched The Lives of Others, which is a film from 2006. And it's really great. Recommended to me by Nikolai from the Criterion podcast that I do that I can't remember the name right now. Spine Numbers.
Have you actually put out an episode
Nope.
of that? No. Okay.
Nope.
How many episodes do you have recorded?
Like
of that?
30.
I'm just gonna fucking mass drop them at some point.
Just drop, dude. And I just rewatched White Dog, the Sam Fuller film about a racist dog, which is a really great film. Yeah, that's about it for me, man. How about you?
Well, let's start with read. I still have not been reading shit. Like, I just haven't. I just moved, and like the only books I have are my film books, and it's like I'm not really actively rereading them. So I don't know. I should get back into reading, but who knows when that's gonna be. Might as well just call this watch and listen at this point. Just redo the song. I mean, you're the only one that's been actively reading the last few podcasts, so
I dabble.
You dabble in the reading. Watch today, as we're recording this on Valentine's Day. I watched The Night Porter. That's my sexy Valentine's pick. I don't know if that's really
horny.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a horny movie. I think I watched it for all those like sexless Puritans that are like, it's just so watch a fucking like art house like erotic. I don't know, not thrillers, is erotic drama, I guess. That's also very depressing. I hadn't watched it in probably mid to late 2000s last time I watched Night Porter. And I was like, I think it still holds up. It's definitely a slow burner. More so than I remember, but
yeah.
like, for a lonely Valentine's Day, I guess it'll do. Also, because I watched Tightrope the other night, and I kind of wanted to revisit or stay in the sleazy era of Clint Eastwood. I watched the one Dirty Harry movie he did direct, which is Sudden Impact, with his one-time partner Sandra Locke in the star. It's basically a rape revenge movie that also is a Dirty Harry movie at the same time. One thing I noticed, I already mentioned this earlier when I was watching Tightrope, is like they both start exactly the same. They start with a fucking wide helicopter shot that like moves in, and then like the credits hit, and it kind of confirms my theory that Clint directed Tightrope, because like very similar, although he gives two completely different performances in between, Dirty Harry and his character Block in Tightrope. Also watch Freeway, which I've never seen. I got it. It's part of one of those Vinegar Syndrome like orders or whatever, and I actually really enjoyed it. You ever see Freeway?
Is that the Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland.
Why can't I say his name? Kiefer.
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland and fuck, what's her name now?
Reese Witherspoon.
Thank you. Yeah, and like it's like a variation of like Little Red Riding Hood and all that.
Okay, yeah, I remember liking it in like fucking the 90s or whatever.
It is very 90s.
Yeah,
but like it's pretty nasty. Like, it's definitely like in that vein of like, you know, when Natural Born Killers and like True Romance and all that stuff, and like definitely kind of little bit in like that the world that was coming out of like, you know, the Tarantino revolution at that time. It was actually written, or not written, it was directed by a former Oingo Boingo member. I forget his name. I think it's Matthew Bright is his name.
Okay.
And like, you know, Danny Elfman did the score to the movie and all that. It's a pretty wild and nasty movie. Like, much more. I just missed it when it came out. So, and apparently this is like the uncut, like fully uncut version. So it has all the nasty gore in it. And because we just passed the Super Bowl, I have a tradition. I watch 2 Minute Warning, which would pair very well with Targets, because it's another sniper movie, except this one's at a football game that's supposed to be the Super Bowl.
Damn, I have to add that to my mass shooter movie list on Letterboxd. Check out my mass shooter list on Letterboxd, everyone.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, you should add it to it.
I don't know how I missed that one. I'm embarrassed.
Well, I mean, it's a weird movie. It's weird for a couple reasons, because like the movie stars Charlton Heston, Mr. NRA, when like he was actually pretty liberal and not very pro-gun. John Cassavetes is in it, who plays like a SWAT team member, and he's like wearing, like everyone, all the cops are wearing like these crazy fucking aviator sunglasses. So basically, yeah, the sniper decides to go to, well, the NFL wouldn't sign off to it. They actually asked the NFL if they could use their teams and stuff, and they're like, "What's the movie about?" Sniper at a football game. They're like, "Nope." But they were okay with Terrorist for Black Sunday, which came out a year later. But I guess maybe John Frankenheimer and Robert Shaw had more clout than Chuck Heston and John Cassavetes. But like, it's like kind of in the same vein of like it's considered one of the universal disaster movies, like Earthquake or stuff, but it's closer to Roller Coaster, except like, not to spoil it, but like it goes off the hinges in a way that like I still can't believe like that's where the movie went.
Yeah.
It gets fucking wild, and it's like there's no way in fuck this movie would ever be made ever again. So much so that a few years later, when it went to go play NBC TV, NBC's like, yeah, we can't have this be the movie. So they shot a bunch of different footage. They added a art heist subplot to it, that the reason why the snipers at the football game is a distraction for art heist. Like, completely changed the movie. Charlton Heston shot new scenes. They brought in a bunch of different actors. They completely changed the plot of the movie for the TV version. One of the most absurd fucking changes, but the theatrical version is like, I love it just because of how just fucked up it is.
Cool.
Like, one of these years, someone's gonna let me show this on the Super Bowl Sunday.
Hell yes.
And that will end my programming career. But I don't know. There's a good Blu-ray of it on Shout Factory. Put it out. They put it out at the same time they did Roller Coaster. So it's like, I don't know. You would dig this movie. In fact, if you want to rewatch it at some point, I'll bring it over, watch it, because it's one of those movies like I can just throw on, because
it's a comfort film. I feel you.
It weirdly is. But there's something about like that 70s era of like just shoving as many like actors into a movie, like Poseidon Adventure, you know, Earthquake, things like that. It's just, there's something about like so many familiar faces where like Jack Klugman's in this fucking movie, and like Gina Rollins is in it, well, because John Cassavetes is in it, but they don't have scenes together, which is kind of crazy. And like, there's like Walter Pidgeon from like the silent eras, and he's like a pickpocket in it. And like, I think Beau Bridges, one of the Bridges, is in it. It's just like this stacked weird cast in this movie that's like, and this only will matter to us, but like the football teams are Baltimore and Los Angeles in the big game that isn't the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
And it's like definitely a lot of little cross plots going back and forth in there. And Andy Sedaris, who was like the head of ABC Sports, who went on to direct like a bunch of sexploitation action movies later on, like Hard Ticket to Hawaii and like Malibu Express and stuff. Like, he has a cameo in it as the actual television director of the football game.
Okay.
So, really love 2 Minute Warning. For listen, I too have been listening to a new Narrowhead, I guess, Moments of Clarity, which I guess maybe it came out last week. I don't know when it was one of those things where, because it kept adding songs, it would just move up in my like the Apple Music queue or whatever, and then I just noticed it was at the top. It's like, oh, I guess it came out. Maybe it was probably last Friday. Still kind of getting into it. It's definitely, you know, heavy grunge pop. Sometimes there's some Deftones stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that stuff. Also been listening to that Basement record, Color Me in Kindness, that you hit me to, and it's just like, that record's so fucking good.
It really is.
Listen to that a lot. Also still been listening to that Fleshwater record, their debut.
Cool.
Like, I saw they've been touring. Like, they were playing like Baltimore and like Midwest, no West Coast dates. I was like, do I fly out to Baltimore and go see them? They're playing with this band Candy, which I guess is on Relapse or something like that.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, so I was like, maybe, nah. Maybe if it coincided with a January Giallo screening, I would have snuck it in there, but unfortunately it did. But hopefully they'll play the West Coast, so I don't have to.
I'm sure they'll be here soon enough.
The other thing I listened to, which is a record that, had I actually listened to it last year, it would probably been my #1 record of the year, which is that Danger Mouse Black Thought record, Cheat Codes.
Yeah. Black Thought's like maybe one of the greatest rappers of all time, if I had to pick.
Yeah, he's definitely, like, I don't want to get in the top 5, like, he's in the conversation for #1, just flat out.
Fuck yeah, wow, okay.
Like seriously, like, he doesn't do bad verses.
Yeah.
And it's like guest spots.
I don't love every Black Thought song, you know what I mean? But that's maybe due to like the production or something.
Yeah.
But you're right, his verses, they're crazy. Like,
no one else is like hitting like just the references, the rhymes, like fucking it's fucking incredible. But like this record, like, you know, I wouldn't say I'm a big Danger Mouse fan or whatever, but like, goddamn, the beats are fucking crazy on this record.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Has good guests. Like, there's a song with, I guess, rest in peace, MF Doom. I don't know if it's just if he recorded it before he passed, or if it's just like a verse. Like, I kind of feel like it's going to be at this point that, like, there's going to be a ton of MF Doom verses floating out there. They're just going to, like, he's got, like, there's probably a stockpile, and they'll just, like, slip out, like, Tupac verses or something like that. Yeah. There's a song he does with ASAP Rocky and Run the Jewels that's like fucking crazy.
Hell yeah.
Like, and there's a song he does with Conway the Machine from Griselda too, when like, just, you know, all the guest spots are good, all the beats are good. It's like a no skip record.
Cool, man. You know what? I actually didn't spend too much time with this one when it came out, so you've convinced me to go back to it.
Like, I don't know. I was like looking at records and it, like, just hip hop stuff in it. So like this came out and I was like, you know, I don't know why I didn't give this a chance. Like, I like Black Thought. Again, not the biggest Danger Mouse fan, but like, I'm not offended by it or whatever. And I'm putting it on, it's just like, fuck, I fucked up. Yeah. I literally probably skipped over like probably really a record of the year contender. But that wraps up this episode of the Cinematic Void podcast. I think we're going to finally do it. I think we're going to have the time. We're going to do an episode we've talked about or hinted at probably since last year, which is Freddy's knockoffs. We're going to talk about some Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street ripoffs. Really excited to do. So
Freddy got fingered.
Yes. We'll fit in Freddy got fingered somehow. I guess it's a nightmare for some people. Maybe Rip Torn, I don't know. But till next time, see you in the void.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. C.T. Cobb and the following messages. Cobb Theaters welcomes your suggestions. Our primary concern is your comfort and enjoyment. Thanks for not smoking. It's the law. There's still time to visit our snack bar for popcorn, snacks, ice-cold Coca-Cola, and Diet Coke. Try the Cobster, jumbo popcorn, and 64-ounce Coke. Please deposit litter in trash receptacles as you exit the auditorium. The perfect gift for any occasion, gift certificates are available at the box office. Please don't talk during the movie. Thanks for visiting with us. Buckle up and drive safely. See you next week. And now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.